So Kevin Glenn certainly got us talking in the break about his being the only quarterback he believes to win all 3 Labor Day Classic games. Our director of scouting, Craig Smith, he's even scouting from the couch, Kelly, telling us as he watches this morning, he thinks that Henry Burris might have done the same thing.
Dunnigan?
And Dunnigan. Mike Lee watching this morning, he says he thinks Matt Dunnigan could. I don't want to burst Kevin's bubble, however.
Well, it's an interesting, I bet, let's put it
It's a great question.
There's not many.
No. No, only special guys.
Then again, there's not many that have played on 8 or 9 teams.
No. Speaking of special guys, we welcome Mike McCullough to the program today. Number 45. We brought his name up on the 45th episode of the program. 11 seasons with the Riders. How you doing, Michael?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Hey, good. How's life with you? Haven't seen you for a while.
Good. We were in Ontario for 6 weeks, so.
You always do that every summer.
Well, yeah, we have a cottage there, so we tend to go back.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What lake do you go to?
It's Lake Clear, not Clear Lake. Lake Clear.
Lake Clear, just outside Kingston, Ontario?
No, about an hour 15 northwest of Ottawa.
That's good. And how was summer out there? Hot, I understand.
Great. We had 3 hours of rain in 6 weeks, so it was pretty amazing.
Wow.
Actually. Yeah.
Now, you're a stickler for details. That's what you do now.
I am.
Right.
I'm very detail-oriented.
You're very detailed. So you're standing there trying to figure out, I think like me, what Kevin was saying, and you couldn't hear him. So what do you think about that stat that he just... You played with and against him in a lot of Labor Day games.
Well, like maybe I misconstrued it. I thought he was saying he'd never lost one. But
so did I.
No, it makes sense that he played in every single one and probably won. Yeah, Calgary with us. I don't think he ever beat us with Winnipeg. Maybe he did, but I can't remember. I don't think he did.
They didn't win much here.
No. And then he probably won with Hamilton. Yeah, so he probably did win all 3 at one point. He definitely has at least probably a 500 record, though. Which
he didn't want to talk about. But
what, losing? He didn't want to talk about losing?
Well, here's the thing. Kevin Glenn, Hall of Fame or not, I'm a thumbs up on it. As obviously so are you and 100%. Kelly, too.
100%.
I mean, if he had won championship, it'd be a no-brainer. But I think that's the only thing holding him back, and people just kind of harp on that a little bit. But, guys like Dan Marino, obviously we're going to the NFL, but guys like Dan Marino, Fran Tarkenton, they make the Hall of Fame there. You look at his numbers alone, if that's what you're going by, then yeah, he should be in the Hall.
No two ways about it.
Yeah.
Speaking of Halls of Fames, how was yours last week? I mean, you're a shoe-in for the Ryder Plaza of Honor too, but last week you watched as Kerry Joseph and Neil Hughes went in. How was the event for you?
It was great. I got to induct Neil. It was fun. Took a couple shots. Also talked some love for him. So and it's great seeing Kerry again. I haven't seen Kerry in, I don't know, maybe 6-7 years when we played against Edmonton. But it was just good to catch up and have him back and kind of still be in the Ryder fold and see how many people still love Kerry. We brought him next to the suite next door at the game, and there was a lady there who was his favorite player, I guess, of all time. She just recently lost her husband, and he came for a visit and basically made her year. She was in tears and took a bunch of pictures. It was a really nice moment, and typical Kerry.
I've always been impressed, Mike, with your play, like the versatility part back when you played. Like you could put you into so many different situations and play different positions and at that linebacker role. And I know that even some of your former coaches, like I believe the one that's joining you, Rod, later on in the show, has said
Kenny Miller.
Yeah, you can't. It may not seem like a big deal, but when you've got players that can play multiple positions and you could just about throw anything at them and they're going to be able to do a serviceable and a really good job, even if it's not maybe their bread and butter, it's an invaluable part. You must take a lot of pride in that.
You just say that because I'm sitting here. If I wasn't sitting here, you'd probably be talking some smack. But
no, I would not.
No, it was good. I think in the long run, it helped me to last as long as I did, but also probably hurt me at times because as I said, they always knew they could fall back on me, so they'd try to find that person to start ahead of me. And granted, certain guys deserve to start ahead of me, such as Ray Williams. I mean, he was a phenomenal athlete. But other times I felt like, I was maybe better than the guy ahead of me, and they, they gave the team the opportunity to go to find someone else who could maybe do better than me, knowing that I was always there to fill in if things didn't work out. And that's kind of what happened a lot of the time. But I found my niche, and I loved it, and worked out well for me.
What's funny, Murray Fisher writing in, he's watching in Brandon today. He says, anyone ever noticed that as soon as Mike McCullough was drafted in 2003, the Riders became a winner?
That's my uncle, Murray.
Well, Mike reminded me of that.
I did, years. Jokingly, yeah.
I don't think you were joking.
Well, I was kidding. I mean, just it happened to work. I think I reminded you halfway through my career, but yeah, I think I was part of 2 losing seasons in my 11 years, so I was very lucky. Obviously 4 Grey Cups, two winning Grey Cups. So, I just happened to fall into the time, probably the most successful 10, 11-year spurt in Rider history, to be perfectly honest with you. And I just happened to be a part of it. So I was
Statistically, you realized it at the time. When did it make you realize how grateful you should be for that, because that was a very special time.
I think after you're done, when you're talking to some of the other alumni and guys, like the Aldegs and the Reeds, and they went to the playoffs a lot, but they also missed it. I mean, Aldag played 17 years, and I think he probably missed the playoffs, unfortunately, half that time. So
or more,
yeah. And they're talking about the the 80s when it was really rough and you couldn't get fans out. I mean, we never had that problem. Ever since I got here, it was, I'm from Ontario. I didn't know the issues the Riders had to go through as a franchise. I just was part of the success and seeing what fans are here all the time. They recognize me of all people in the grocery store, like the bottom of the totem pole. So I couldn't imagine what it was like, 30 years prior when you had to basically have a fundraiser to keep the team alive.
It is hard for a lot of people to realize, but good times now. And you're in that stadium a lot. I assume going to games, you're still doing the radio pre and post game. How much do you enjoy that? I love listening to you because you don't care what comes out of your mouth.
Say, you can say what you want. I'm like, the Riders don't employ me anymore, so I can basically say what I want. And I'm in the last regime, I wasn't happy with certain things, as some people weren't, but I also wanted to give credit where credit was due. But this year, I'm a huge Dickenson fan. I think J.O.'s made some great moves. I think one of his best moves, nothing against him, was getting rid of Collaros. Not only getting rid of him and making Faliardo, whatever his last name is.
Fajita.
Fajita. Making him the bona fide, but also getting Collaros kind of away, so whatever decisions he makes won't affect the club, because I think Collaros shouldn't be playing football anymore for his own health. I mean, as a human being, he should not be playing. The Riders getting rid of him basically said, we wash our hands of him. So I think that was probably one of the best moves J.O.'s made in his 10 years of GM. You
guys were very close. You guys hosted a golf tournament together for many years. So I know Jeremy pretty well, not as well as you. I'm not surprised by this at all. As a matter of fact, I thought he should have got the job ahead of Chris Jones when they hired Chris, but he's just nailing everything.
Yeah, and there's going to be downtime. So, it's just to see that people who maybe thought J.O. couldn't do it, so far, I think the early results look really good. And Dickenson, too. I know he wasn't the quote-unquote sexy pick. And would he have been the head coach pick if they had a 6-8 month off season or whatever to figure out who they wanted? Maybe not. But I think maybe the short time frame actually, benefited Rider fans because they went with Dickenson. He was a known commodity. He knew the team, and frankly, he's a great coach. He's coached me, well respected. I mean, I have an immense respect for him because to me, he's a good coach and a good man in a sometimes very terrible game that have some coaches that are sneaky and backhanded, and Dickie's not like that. So I'm so happy, and it's kind of like it's rejuvenated my fandom in the Riders.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny you bring that up because I've heard that a lot this year. There's just something about the way this team carries itself. There's something about it's almost like it's more of a team again. I kind of got the feeling, Mike and Rod, over the last 2 or 3 years that Chris was a defensive guy, and damn it, we're going to win with defense and specialty teams. I don't even care. As long as our offense doesn't turn the ball over, we'll score enough points on defense and specialty teams to win. And I always thought, I don't know, that seems a bit off to me that you would create that sort of a vibe or culture on your team that certain aspects are more important than others. Am I the only one that thinks this, or do you see the team coming together a little bit more this year?
Yeah, I think personally, just having known Dickie and been coached by him, I believe that he's letting the players play and he's letting the coaches coach. Because I think Dickie is overseeing everybody like he's supposed to, but he's also letting McAdoo do what McAdoo thinks will make the team successful, making Shivers or Shivers do the same thing on defense. And he's not nitpicking. He's not in every meeting saying, well, I would prefer this. I think he's letting them do their thing while supporting them, but also making sure he keeps them reined in. So, I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I have no idea. I know Jones, he was very successful, but he's also very controlling. And I think he wanted things done his way on defense and on offense. And now I think those coaches can breathe. Everybody was on McAdoo, and myself included. I thought, his offense looks stale. But now, this year, when he's been freed up, it looks like, wow, okay, he does know what he's doing. And maybe just found the right pieces, and now he's allowed to call the plays he wants to play in this, call in the situation he wants to call them in. So that's what I believe. I think Dickenson has allowed everybody to have that freedom that where they can relax and just play football and enjoy the game again.
Sounds like what Kahari Jones is doing in Montreal. I was just out there and witnessed it firsthand. Same thing. It was a casual, relaxed vibe off him, and the team played that way. Do you think that's the way the game's going? Because there's still hard-ass coaches.
Totally.
Yeah.
But I think the days of the Vince Lombardis and the not having water break, that's done with. You can't do that anymore. It doesn't work. Yelling and screaming. And in all sports. And whether you like it or not, you can't just tear a strip off one guy or the whole team anymore because in all honesty, players now, and even in my regime, they're not as tough. They can't handle criticism. They don't like being yelled at. That's just the way it is. And even in kids sports, I coach kids sports. You can't be too stern with kids because then they break down and the parents come, why are you getting mad at my kid? I'm like, because your kid's screaming and talking while I'm trying to talk. That's why. Your kids should know that that's not okay. And that's kind of where we're going. And even, I think athletes in general sucks, and you can't treat them, you can't have that hard approach anymore, which may be good or bad, but you got to adapt with the times.
It's almost like I agree with that psychology. We can't, you really shouldn't be tearing the strip off of a 10-year-old. But it's almost gone so far. But
I think I've done it once or twice by accident.
Well, so have I, trust me. Like, what's that old saying? Let he who has not sinned cast the first stone. I mean, I'd be the first to admit I've gone overboard maybe at times, but it's almost kind of like it's going so far the other way.
Yeah.
The kids are too soft now, too.
Totally,
I'm not sure what the...
Well, I mean, like these guys, it's just... you got to let them be, but you can't treat everybody the same. It just doesn't work. I mean, especially at the pro level, you cannot treat everybody the same. Guys like the Genos, the Dresslers, if needed, they get treated differently. And you understand that. If they ever came to Geno in his last year, last 3 years, said, you don't have to practice, you can just play, we'd all be okay with that. Like, yeah, that's totally fine. But if you're a first year, you don't get that. If you're a fifth year, you don't get that.
And you shouldn't.
No, nor should you. But not everybody gets treated equal. The game of sport is not equal when it gets to the pro level. So I think Dickie does a really good job of holding people accountable without embarrassing them. That is a very key trait, because if you embarrass somebody in front of their peers in the locker room, that could be disastrous for one player, many players, or even the coach.
There's another coach like that. He goes by the name Ken Miller.
Yeah.
And he will join us in hour 2. Gene Mikowski as well. You're watching The Rod Pedersen Show on Facebook Live. Listen live at rodpedersen.com and catch the podcast at Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, and iHeartRadio.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.